Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of Tales from the Netherlands. I'm your host Mick, and tonight we're going to be talking about a Dutch horror movie called The Pool. Now, The Pool was released in 2014. It was directed by Chris W. Mitchell. I had to look it up, sorry. And it won a Golden Calf, which is basically the Oscars from the Netherlands for Best Sound Design, which was done by a guy named Vijay Berenpoot. Now, an interesting thing about The Pool is that it's a Dutch horror movie, and we don't have a huge history of making horror movies in the Netherlands. There's some classics like Amsterdam, and there are some really bad ones like Dood Eind and a couple of others. But this one is actually a quite serious attempt on making a proper, decent horror movie. And as far as I'm concerned, it turned out very well. Now, I find it a little bit hard to discuss this movie because it's so Dutch, and I'm guessing a lot of you don't have a lot of, you aren't really familiar with Dutch cinema. So you have to bear with me here as I try to explain some things about what makes this movie very special for me. Dutch movies, in their essence, are usually very heavily based on interpersonal relationships. They're usually quite sarcastic. There's a lot of dark humor going on in a lot of Dutch movies. And The Pool has it all. So it really stayed true to the Dutch nature of cinema. But it's still a very well done production on its own. So I think that's very commendable.
Als je het te eng vindt, Rob, dan kunnen we altijd nog terug naar camping Eldorado, waar we net langs kwamen.
Maybe I should go into the premise a little bit more before I start going into it deeper. It's about two families. There's Leonard with his wife and two sons, and he's a laid-off banker. And he's taking his good friend Bob, who's also a laid-off banker, with his daughter. And they're going camping. But I have to explain this. In the Netherlands, it's very usual to go camping, but you don't mean going camping into the wild, but you actually go to a big place where a lot of families are having their tents, and they're all just sleeping in their tents and hanging around on this camping, as we call them. But these guys don't want to do that, so they go off the beaten path, and they find a nice secluded spot next to a lake, where how many? 6 of them will stay. And then, of course, shit gradually starts hitting the fan because there's something in that lake that's not especially friendly or healthy.
Ik zag iets in het water.
Now, one of the things that's really interesting for me is that in the Netherlands, it's very hard to get lost. It's a very small country. It's literally impossible to walk for an hour without meeting anybody or coming upon a village or something. It's really condensed. It's really tightly packed. So eventually they notice that they cannot actually leave the area of the lake. And this is, of course, a very big deal in the Netherlands, because if you go walking and you walk for a day and you come back and you haven't seen anybody, that's quite weird. That's quite impossible. So that's one of the things that this movie uses very well, like the claustrophobia of the Netherlands, the wish to get away from it all, and then encountering something and finding out that it's actually not that pleasant not to be able to leave. It's also a movie that's it's really reliant on decay, and that's both in a very literal way. Like, food they bring with them rots really quickly near the lake. There's a lot of stuff like that going on, a lot of maggots and nasty stuff. It's very quite visceral actually sometimes. But also the decay between the personal relationship. You see that Leonard and his wife are really not in a good place in their relationship. Also because Leonard's wife has got a relationship she's cheating on Leonard with Bob, his best friend. So that's all that tension going on. It's also a very big part of the movie because Leonard really wants to prove himself to his family after being laid off. So he's pretending to be the cool survival expert guy, and actually his wife and Bob are laughing at that behind his back, and it's all, there's a lot of you see all these relationships deteriorate really quickly, As for scare factors, there's no jump scares. It's all very very subtle, very under the skin. Um, I think the build up is really good. It's a really gradual build up. You know quite a way. Of course, you know from the start that something is going to go bad, but the way it affects the families is very well done. Like the way they gradually go crazy and the paranoia that starts happening. It's all very very interesting.
Welke zieke klootzak vindt dit grappig?
I'm just really curious what people from outside of the Netherlands think of this movie, because for me it's very I see it as a Dutchman, so for me it's a very well done experiment in seeing if the Dutch can actually make a horror movie, and for me it was really good. I really liked it. But that might also be because there's a lot of typical Dutch things going on in the movie that somebody outside of the Netherlands might not even pick up on. So if you give it a watch, and I really recommend that you do, please leave in the comments what you thought of it, because I'm really curious about how outsiders, people from outside the Netherlands, perceive this movie. I don't know. I don't know if it's easy to find outside of the Netherlands. Also, it's spoken Dutch, so if you use less legal means to obtain this movie, you might have a problem with subtitles. So it might be best to just see if you can pick up a copy somewhere. Of course, it is. So if you find it somewhere, if you can rent it, or I don't know, just give it a try. I can really recommend it, and please let me know what you thought, because like I said, I'm really curious. So have a good one, guys and girls, of course, and I'll see you next time.